You've made it to your 50s, a time when you probably think you've got life figured out. But let me ask you something. What if you could sit down with someone who's lived another 30 years longer than you? What if you could tap into the wisdom of an 80-year-old who's seen it all, loved, lost, fought battles, and found peace in ways you can't even imagine yet? If you're in your 50s, you're standing at a crucial point in life where every decision can shape the years ahead in ways you never thought possible. Imagine knowing the things now that many people only figure out at 80. What would that do for you? Think of the mistakes you could avoid, the joy you could capture, the regrets you could sidestep. You don't have to wait until it's too late. There's wisdom waiting for you right here, right now. One thing that every person who has lived through 8 decades will tell you is this: the time you waste in your 50s will haunt you later. Most people don't realize it until they hit 80, but by then, time isn't on their side anymore. You might think you have plenty of it left, but in reality, you'll blink and another 30 years will have passed. So stop, reflect. What are you doing right now that you might regret later? What are the dreams you've put on hold, the relationships you've neglected, the risks you were too afraid to take? Let me tell you what the elderly say about regrets. It's not the things they did that eat at them, it's the things they didn't do. The opportunities they let slip by, the apologies they didn't make, the adventures they were too scared to take. Regret doesn't come from failing, it comes from never trying. In your 50s, you still have time to change this narrative. You have the chance to pursue what really matters before time starts closing doors you can never reopen. One of the biggest lessons from those who've lived longer is this: stop worrying so much about what other people think. By the time you reach 80, you'll realize that most of the things that held you back were rooted in other people's opinions. Think about it. How much of your life have you spent trying to live up to expectations that weren't even yours? Now's the time to break free. You're old enough to know what matters, and wise enough to know that no one else's opinion should dictate your happiness. Another key piece of wisdom is how important it is to prioritize your health, both physically and mentally. When you're young, it's easy to take your body for granted. You bounce back quickly from sickness or injury, and you push your limits without thinking twice. But by the time you're 80, every elderly person will tell you the same thing. Your body is the only one you've got, and you'll wish you had taken better care of it earlier. The aches and pains become constant reminders of the choices you made in your 50s. Don't let future you look back with regret. Start now, exercise, eat well, and don't overlook the importance of mental health. Because here's the truth: your mind needs as much care as your body. Family and friendship take on a whole new meaning when you're 80. You start to realize that the people in your life, the ones who really matter, are the only ones who will stand by you when everything else falls away. Careers, material possessions, even your health, those things can fade. But the relationships you nurture, those will be your lifeline. At 80, you'll wish you'd spent more time with your loved ones. You'll wish you had mended those broken bridges, forgiven those grudges, and cherished the moments with the people who mattered most. You don't have to wait until you're 80 to figure this out. In your 50s, you still have the chance to build and rebuild those connections. So ask yourself, who are you neglecting right now? Who do you need to call, visit, or forgive? And let's not forget the importance of purpose. As you get older, purpose becomes less about grand achievements and more about meaningful contributions. The elderly will tell you that purpose isn't tied to success or money. It's about how you make the world a better place, even in small ways. What are you passionate about? What gifts do you have that you could use to help others? Finding your purpose in your 50s can make the difference between a life that feels fulfilled and one that feels empty. Now, here's the part no one likes to talk about, but it's inevitable: Loss. By the time you reach 80, you will have lost friends, family, and even parts of yourself. The elderly often say that one of the hardest lessons of life is learning to let go. In your 50s, you're entering a stage where loss will become more frequent, whether it's the loss of people you love or the loss of dreams that never came true. But here's the thing. The elderly don't focus on the pain of loss. They focus on the gratitude of having loved in the first place. So, as you move through life, remember that every moment counts. Cherish the people in your life because nothing is guaranteed. Lastly, let's talk about living fearlessly. At 80, you'll wish you had lived more boldly. You'll wish you had taken more risks, chased more dreams, and ignored the fears that held you back. In your 50s, you have the perfect opportunity to start living without fear. The biggest lesson from those who've made it to 80 is that life is too short to live with hesitation. Take that trip. Start that new career. Say, I love you more. Don't wait until you're 80 to realize you should have been living all along.